Welcome back to Into the Deep with Storm. Today we are going to be talking about the difference between murder and killing. To start us off, here is a brain twister for you. All murder is killing, but not all killing is murder. This saying captures a profound distinction that often goes unnoticed. When we look at the Ten Commandments in Exodus 20, 1 through 17, we see that the sixth commandment is, "Thou shalt not kill." That gives us the impression that it's always wrong to take a human life, but this is a mistaken translation from the King James Version. When we look at other versions of the Bible, it will most often say murder. If we take a look at the Hebrew word for this specific word, the Ten Commandments use the verb liratosh. I probably butchered that, but it basically means to murder or unlawful killing. Specifically, the intentional, premeditated killing of another person with malice. Malice is the quality of threatening evil, feeling a need to see others suffer. Malice is a special kind of evil that separates murder from killing. This subtle distinction is crucial to understanding the moral and legal differences between killing and murder. God's word tells us that accidental killing is not murder. We can see this in Exodus 21, 12 through 13. Anyone who assaults and kills another person must be put to death. But if it was simply an accident permitted by God, I will appoint a place of refuge where the slayer can run for safety. And Numbers 35, 22 through 25 says, "But suppose someone pushes another person without having shown previous hostility, or throws something that unintentionally hits another person, or accidentally drops a huge stone on someone, though they were not enemies, and the person dies. If this should happen, the community must follow these precautions in making a judgment between the slayer and the avenger, the victim's nearest relative. The community must protect the slayer from the avenger and must escort the slayer back to live in the city of refuge to which he fled. There he must remain until the death of the high priest, who was anointed with the sacred oil." We also have an example that a killing in self-defense or the defense of one's home is not murder. Exodus 22:2 says this. "If a thief is caught in the act of breaking into a house and is struck and killed in the process, the person who killed the thief is not guilty of murder." And in Genesis 14 through 16, it tells us that killing in an attempt to save an innocent person is not murder. Asbury Tulsa says, "It's important to note that every human was made in the image of God and is therefore sacred. But it's also important to note that human life is not the ultimate value. Martyrdom has a place in the church because martyrs are losing their own lives for the sake of the larger truth. Jesus himself goes to the cross and gives up his life for the purpose of his mission. But any time a person's life is taken, whether through murder or killing, always be praying for God's mercy and ask to heal the wound that's been created by the absence of the person who died and for the person who was the cause of that death. We should never celebrate in the death of another person." Ryan Visconti says, "God allows killing for self-defense because God values life." Matthew 5:44 says, "But I say, love your enemies, pray for those who persecute you." This verse is telling us to love our enemies. Some people would say, "See, we are supposed to love them, not kill them." Well, there's a big difference between loving your enemies and letting your enemies kill you. Jesus let his enemies kill him, and he loved them deeply. But it was part of God's will, and it was the reason Jesus came in the first place. Now, Christ does call us to die to our flesh, but that doesn't mean you have to let others kill your flesh. In summary, the main thing that differentiates murder from killing is the motive, intent, and justification. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and join me next week.